Today I will tell you about the combat mission of Lyudmila Pavlichenko, which could have ended tragically. We will be forwarded to Odessa in the hot autumn of 1941, when the Red Army heroically held back the enemy's onslaught in the south. I tried to fulfill the new order of the company commander as best as I could. He set a combat mission to destroy the enemy's machine gun, which was firing truly deadly and accurate fire from the village of Gildendorf, not giving our people, as they say, to raise their heads. At the 20th of September, the Soviet command was preparing to strike at the enemy in the eastern sector of the front. Our 2 battalions of the 54th Regiment, together with the 5 battalions from the 157th Infantry Division, were to assault Gildendorf. Before that, my fellow soldiers drove the enemy out of the cemetery, located 200 meters from the southern end of the village. There were trees in the cemetery, 5 tall maples with spreading crowns and thick trunks, who no one knows how survived in hot battles during bombing and shelling. The difficulties associated with the camouflage receded by themselves. From the book Fights in Finland, I knew that in Karelian forests, Finnish snipers, cuckoos, fired at our troops hiding among the branches of mighty northern trees. Why don't I use this experience? The lieutenant approved my plan. All evening I was embroidering my new camouflage jacket with a greenish hood and brown stains. The petty officer gave me the scraps of camouflage nets and someone's old tunic, which I cut into ribbons and small pieces. The tattered tape was good enough to rub the barrel of a sniper rifle. The rest, along with maple leaves, twigs and bunches of grass, I placed on the jacket, which made it lose its previous clear silhouette and began to resemble the robe of a goblin or a swamp creature. An hour and a half before the sun was rising, I went to the cemetery. Not poor people at all, immigrants from Germany lived in the village of Gildendorf. With German accuracy, they arranged not only the village, but also the churchyard not far from it. Straight paths, graves with stone tombstones, lattice fences. The trees overshadow the eternal resting place of the first burgomaster of the Gildendorf, the venerable Wilhelm Schmidt, who died in 1899, as indicates by the inscription engraved on the marble monument. Putting my feet on the black slab, I began to climb from here up the trunk of a mighty maple, bent over the gravestone. My equipment consisted of only the most necessary things. A Mosin sniper rifle, 2 belts filled with cartridges, with light bullets and armor-piercing bullets, with the head painted in black, as I was going to not only shoot the machine gunners, but also disable the infernal machine. I didn't take the binoculars, nor did I take the steel helmet, since my hearing became worse after the concussion, and the helmet prevented me from perceiving faint sounds. Resting my feet on the maple branches, I comfortably arranged the rifle on another branch at about shoulder level and looked through the eyepiece of the telescopic sight at the village. Now the street, built up with 1-story stone houses, a mill, a church, a school, lay in front of me at a glance. In the garden, surrounding a large, dilapidated house, I saw a universal German MG-34 machine gun on a tripod stand, and boxes with ammunition belts laid out next to it. The machine gun had an optical sight, so that was the secret of its accurate fire. Well, evil fascist dogs, I'll teach you a lesson now. At 7 o'clock in the morning, the outposts were placed. However, soldiers with rifles didn't interest me. I was waiting for the machine gunners. They appeared later, 3 Romanians. At first they were engaged in a machine gun, then they sat down under the trees and began to eat large golden yellow pears, which were in abundance in the garden under the trees. I expected to make 3 shots, no more, 1 in the machine gun lock. Having inserted a cartridge with a light bullet into the bore, I closed the bolt and leaned against the optical side. The target, the head of a tall soldier sitting next to a tripod with an MG-34, was between 3 black lines. But suddenly there was a movement in the garden. The machine gunners jumped up, lined up and stood at attention. A minute later, officers in caps approached them. One of them looked the most interesting, a cigar in the mouth, a brown leather tablet on its side, and a long whip in his hand. In general, he looks haughty and decisive. I knew the distance, about 200 meters. The wind died down. The air temperature was approaching 25 degrees Celsius. I took inside not a soldier, but this man, held my breath and gently pulled the trigger. The Romanians heard the shot. How not to hear it in the piercing silence of the morning? But it probably took a while for them to think that a sniper was working. This man, without even crying out, fell to the one side. They fussed around him, and in vain I managed to reload the rifle twice, and both machine gunners were also on the ground. An armor-piercing bullet from the first shot hit the MG-34 bolt, incapacitating it. The enemy came to his senses, and now, with might, they started firing through the cemetery from mortars and rifles. Fragments from mines and bullets whistled around me. I pressed my body against the thick trunk of the maple, but soon realized that he was a poor defense. 5 trees is not a century-old forest in which it's difficult to see anything in the tops of giant spines. Pieces of hot metal flew here like a deadly swarm, knocking down leaves, breaking thin branches. The feeling of terrible danger froze my heart, but didn't cause confusion. It was necessary to jump immediately, although it was 3 meters to the ground. In order not to break the expensive optics, I hung the sniper on a branch, which was much lower, and rushed down, imitating my own death. I fell unsuccessfully, hitting the right side on someone's gravestone, and I couldn't get up because of a strong pain. The lieutenant sent soldiers, and they helped me to my feet, brought me to the dugout. My fellow soldiers were preparing for an attack on Gildendorf, and I, suffering from pain in my right side, lay in the dugout and reflected that the book Fights in Finland, of course, was written with the truth. However, applying someone else's experience, it was necessary to think with the own head, analyze local conditions. Now, going to the cemetery and shooting from the tree seemed to me a form of adventure. At about 11 o'clock, the enemy was driven out of Gildendorf, as well as from the Ilyichovka State Farm. The Romanians were randomly withdrawing their troops to the north, throwing the dead and wounded, weapons and ammunition on the battlefield. Our men began to inspect the captured positions, found in the village garden a smashed German machine gun, 2 soldiers and an officer. This was my contribution to the overall victory, and Lieutenant Voronin admitted that I helped the 2nd Company a lot. The company commander also visited me. The lieutenant said that the man shot by me turned out to be the adjutant of the dictator Antonescu himself, Major Georgi Karaja. Some important stuff, paper, letters, photographs and a diary were found with him. The major wrote about the awful morale of the Armenian army, which near Odessa faced fierce Russian resistance. The memory of the story with 5 maples in the cemetery near the village of Gildendorf remained with me in the form of a silver cigarette case with skillful engraving on the lid, which had the image of a beautiful woman in a luxurious hut with bows. Andrei Voronin presented it to me that day as a trophy found when a Romanian major was killed. I pressed the lock button, the cigarette case opened, and we saw thin long brown cigarettes tightly packed in it. I offered them to the lieutenant and he refused. "I don't smoke. Have you been smoking for a long time, Lyudmila?" "No, I learned at the front. Sometimes it helps to relieve nervous tension." "And does it often happen?" the company commander asked. "Usually after the hunt, when the enemy is destroyed. While in ambush I have no feelings, I just wait and think that the rifle will fire without a miss." "Thinking about the weapon?" The lieutenant was surprised. "Sure, rifles for a sniper are almost sacred." Dear friends, that's all for today. Write your opinion. How do you think there is a place for a woman at war? And what do you think about the idea of Lyudmila climbing up on such trees? Don't forget to put like. This helps in promoting the video so that as many people as possible don't forget about the heroes of the Great Patriotic War. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Press the bell and you will never miss new video. Wish you peace and health. See you.